all the time. No excuses and no blame. I'm stepping up my game. I'm a groovester, yes I am. With groove, I know I can. Read my master plan. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. I'm moving, yes I am. I'm moving. I'm moving. I'm moving, yes I am. I'm moving. I'm moving. I'm moving, yes I am. Groove Nation inspires me to bust loose and break free. I'm dancing to my dreams, bursting at the seams. I'm feeling groove-alicious. Groove knows who I am. 'Cause now is my time to have a groove state of mind. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving. Oh, I'm grooving. I'm grooving, yes I am. I'm grooving.
Yay!
Hey,
I love that beat.
me too.
It is catchy and it sticks with you, and you just find yourself bebopping.
It even picks me up when I'm very low energy and under the weather now. So,
Well, it is the fall finally, and actually here in Florida, it actually arrived. It's actually a little chilly outside. It's kind of interesting. How
it
about
has
you?
arrived here in Las Vegas as well. Just a little chilly. I have to bundle up a bit in the morning when I walk my dogs, and having some cool evenings now. So.
Yes, I'm kind of enjoying it actually. It was interesting because I like to go out and work outside and enjoy the fall time. And yesterday I was like, okay, it's a little too cold out here. I'm going back inside again. So,
Very nice.
I love the fall because we talk so much about that idea of the harvest and the bounty. And I want to ask you a question to kind of kick this off and talk about harvest and bounty, because it's not something that most people talk about a lot. Most people talk about winning and, overcoming stuff. But the harvest, the thing that's interesting about the harvest is it has to start a long time ago. It's not like you can have a big harvest because you just started last week.
That's very true. You must reap before you can sow.
Right? That's the
sow before you can reap. I think I had that backwards.
And so, I wanted to kick this off by asking you, from an online marketing perspective, what does that mean? Because we have so many online entrepreneurs that we deal with, and there are a lot of kind of ridiculous comments that come out there and crazy promises that are made that really don't serve anybody because of the creation of false expectations, unrealistic narratives. Talk to us a little bit about what have you seen, Donna? There's so many entrepreneurs that are in our Groove community that idea of you have to sow before you reap. How does that apply in online marketing?
That is such a great question, Ridgely. There is no overnight success when it comes to online marketing, no matter how many people tell you that you can be an overnight success. At a minimum, you would need to have sowed the seeds of your financial health so that you can pay for advertising to get instant traffic to your website. That's about as quick as you can get when it comes to an overnight success. But before you even get to that step of buying traffic for your website. You need to sow your seeds of understanding of how to market, of understanding what makes copy good copy that people will respond to, what the pain points are. So you need to know about your product and the solution that it provides and the experience that your users are having. And even before that, you need to sow the seeds of your own personal interests, likes, dislikes, to figure out where your passion is and what you're inspired to promote. And maybe if you are setting yourself up as a subject matter expert, you need to sow the seeds of your own credibility in that department.
Mm-hmm. And I've often done this. Every now and then, somebody will call and referred by a friend or whatever, and they'll say, yeah, I've decided, I know a lot about this particular topic, and I've decided I'm going to teach it online. And so kind of want to get the lay of the land. What's that look like? And the first thing I find myself saying is, well, can we just debunk a myth here real quick? Mm-hmm. And for me to help you and be transparent and truthful, the first thing I need to say is any concept that you have that this is going to be easy and fast, I would strongly suggest you get rid of it. So unless you have enough appetite for whatever it is that you're going after to stick around for the long term, to have it cost you far more than you think it's going to cost you. And I'm not referring only to monetarily, although including monetarily. I'm talking about the ups and the downs, the frustrations, the challenges, the difficulty. I suggest that you don't even bother, because I'm telling you, it's a bear. It's very difficult. Well, what do you mean, Ridgely? I don't get it. Well, here's the good news. Online marketing only has to do with two things. How do people find you? And what happens when they do? In industry parlance, we call that traffic and conversion. But let me tell you, that's after you have a product that you vetted, that you've tested, that people like, that whatever. So let's suppose you're good at making a product. Well, then you got to figure out traffic. And there's all kinds of traffic. And to you, what you said earlier about the paid traffic, sure, paid traffic can work a little quicker as soon as you optimize the paid traffic funnel, which
and you understand how to get the paid traffic, and
and then oh, by the way, you get some traffic and people actually have to like what you're saying about it so that it kind of converts. And oftentimes the person who's good at traffic is not good at conversion, and the person who's good at creating the product is good at neither of those other two. And so the whole thing is no. The promise is huge. The cost of entry is low. And therefore, there are a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, don't know what to expect, and who do not understand how much you do have to sow before you're to reap. I really, it's one of my biggest pet peeves about the industry is to have people come in with a false narrative in their own mind because they've heard these crazy promises that somebody's making that I absolutely refuse to make.
Yeah. And it is possible to make a lot of money very quickly online if you have sown those seeds, if you have the knowledge that you need, if you have the one I don't think I mentioned earlier, relationships in place to help you, if you've got the technical expertise or access to all of those things. So many of those things can come much faster if you have money. Mm-hmm. You can buy those things. So that's, sowing the seeds that give you the income to be able to buy those things, like somebody to do your website for you, someone to write your copy for you, someone to set it all up. But it still has to be your idea, your drive. And even though an online business has a much lower barrier of entry to a brick and mortar business, it's so much easier to open up a web store than it is to open up a physical store. It's not without its challenges and struggles.
Well, I think that even if you have the money, let's just suppose you have that one asset. I have this one resource, money. that doesn't mean you know how to pick the right person that's going to help you with the copy, or
Yep.
pick the right person to build a website. Because there's an awful lot of people out there that hang out a shingle saying, I can do this. And who knows if they ever have done one before you. You have no way of knowing or checking.
You are correct.
References and what have you, but all that stuff is made up easily.
In the few minutes before I jumped on this call, I was writing copy for one of our agency clients. So I came in with the assumption that anyone within earshot is smart enough to use the professionals at Groove Agency to get their website and copy done for them. But you're absolutely right. So many people have lost a lot of money by going with the wrong person, that it seemed right. And this actually includes us too. I can't tell you how many ad agencies we have used and fired and tried different ones over the years.
Yeah, me too,
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm having a lot of fun. My next call after this today is with a community bank, and banks, I've come to find out, have it so easy that they don't really focus that much on marketing. Because think about it, you don't change your bank.
Mm-hmm.
How many banks have I changed in my whole life? 2, maybe in my entire career. You get with one bank, it's all these things are attached to that one account. You're paying all these bills this way. To change it is such a monumental undertaking that banks have the ability to get lazy,
Yeah.
which means they don't know that much about online marketing. But let's talk about, so fortunately for me, it's turned into being a very deep vein. But wait a second, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because I put Vint Cerf on the cover of a magazine that I ran at the beginning of the internet. It's not like it wasn't like a long time coming to get lucky enough to be able to have a conversation that makes sense to someone who doesn't know anything about marketing, to then be able to have them say, yes, we're going to give you a 6-figure contract. Not so easy. And I really don't like it when people think that there's anything easy about becoming an OG in online marketing, because it's just not. And I thought just kick this conversation about harvest and bounty, because you can have a great harvest and a great bounty in online marketing, but not without sowing.
Yep. And I am sure that you can think of a few examples, more than a few examples, I can as well, of people who have been in marketing as long as we have, but have never gotten to the harvest.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you see that everywhere in life, right? I mean, I remember a friend of mine, Ray, who went on to become the #1 distributor in a very prominent direct sales company, which means he's done extraordinarily well. It only took him 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
17 years of figuring it out before he finally got it right. Like, okay. So what is psychologically, let's talk about this for a second, because how can we help, especially younger entrepreneurs, whether that's young in entrepreneurship or young in years and entrepreneurship by definition, to understand that there is this fundamental principle to get to the harvest? You got to do some planting, a lot of planting. What do you think?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that part of it is continuing education and impressing upon young marketers the importance of continuing their education, both the type of education that we share here, mostly mindset growth strategies, but also very specific education about all of the different areas when it comes to marketing. Absolutely, copywriting is high on that list. Being able to understand what makes people buy, the aspects of persuasion, even like direct response marketing is a really important thing to consider, because every time your website talks to one person at a time, you're always just talking to one person. I know. So even that small shift, lots of people think, oh, here's a website, I'm talking to the masses. You're still just talking to one person. Then maybe one person here and one person there, but there's only one person on the other side. And understanding that psychology of talking and selling and persuading that one person and developing online rapport, all of that requires learning. It requires study. It doesn't come naturally to very many people.
Now, let's talk about one of the things you mentioned, which is the idea of failing your way forward. How many agencies didn't work? How many things did not work before finally something did work? And how it's a little counterintuitive to people who are used to the traditional, I go somewhere, I perform a function, I get rewarded. As long as I perform that function, I continue to get rewarded. Whereas here, it's you might perform a function and get rewarded a big donut because it failed miserably. And all you can say is, I failed my way forward because I didn't lose, I got a lesson. But the lesson may be zero bounty.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
and it's tough. And I think resilience is one of the things that you need to sow when it comes to having online marketing. It's the recognition that you only fail when you stop picking yourself up, because you're going to fall. We all fall.
Yeah, and I wonder what the connection is. Like, for example, in just full transparency, I'm having a hard time succeeding with advertising on YouTube. Okay. It's just been a bear. I've sank 6 figures into it so far, not getting results that I want. And yet somehow, because of not giving up, another vein opens up over here that is potentially dwarfing anything I was doing over there in the first place. And so I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around, all right, I might just pull the plug on this whole YouTube thing. I might just go, you know what? We gave it a good shot. It did not work for us. It works for this guy. It works for this guy or gal, but it ain't working for me. And especially, I've got another thing that is really working. So why do I need to do? But I think there's a connection between this. You just keep planting seeds, and sometimes the seed does not yield the direct fruit that you thought it would, but the fruit still comes from somewhere because of the fact that you keep planting. Your thoughts on that?
There is an expression for this in gardening. I believe it's called a volunteer plant. It is a plant that appears in your garden that you didn't plant, that somehow that seed came to you. And because you were gardening and your soil was fertile and ready, you are growing a plant. I have 2 volunteer palm plants. I didn't plant them. They're right next to another palm tree, but they're not the same kind of tree. Don't know where it came from. Some wonderful bird, animal, wind brought me that seed, planted it in Las Vegas soil, which isn't the most fertile in the world. And they are growing. Not from any use of mine, not from any work of mine, but they're growing in a place that is nurtured because of the existing tree there that's sort of doing okay. It's actually a perfect analogy, because it's a little bit brown and a little bit struggling, but the other 2 that are growing right next to it are beautiful and bountiful and lush green palms. So yeah, they're called volunteer plants.
Very interesting. I'd never heard of the volunteer plant, but the concept makes complete sense to me, because I see it happening repeatedly. You know, that old, it's amazing how lucky you get depending on how hard you work, right? Yes. And that concept. And sometimes the bounty doesn't seem to be directly related to the effort, yet there's a karmic kind of ethos that gets created within the people who just keep at it.
I think about our law degrees, Ridgely. Neither one of us is using a law degree that we both spent a lot of money and a lot of time and effort and energy to acquire, and we are not practicing law. And was that time wasted? I've never felt that it was. Even when I decided to stop practicing law, I never felt that my law time and that study time was ever wasted. That was time when I was sowing myself and my knowledge and understanding of the world and of business and contracts and psychology, even at the time. All of those things went into me getting a law degree, even though that never reaped a bountiful harvest, or at least not one that I wanted to keep sowing. And I know that you feel similarly about that.
Yeah.
It's, and even before, I did take steps back into high school, grade school, early childhood. Learning how to read and write is sowing a seed for a successful future.
Yeah. And the continuous education process is that also. It's like it not only is continuing education important because of what you learn, but continuing education is super important because you continue to cultivate the muscle of keeping learning.
Yes.
Right? That's a little convoluted the way I just said that. But I just think to myself, for example, with this vein that we just opened up, a big business vein, it's only because of understanding how to use a zone of genius that was already there in the context of a new opportunity called AI. Bringing that from here to over here and having all these people say, wow, that's amazing. Let us use that. But it happened because, hey, AI is here. Okay, let's learn about it. Let's go and put the effort in and continue to, again, plant the seeds that popped up something that I completely did not expect.
And you were ready for it.
That's what I mean. Because you're ready because of all the seeds that were planted.
All those seeds.
I remember Jim Rohn talking a lot about the seed, because one of my favorite books for sure, and we'll get to that in a second, is The Seasons of Life by Jim. And him talking about the seeds and the seeds and saying things like, now here's the thing about the seeds. Some of them are going to get dried up in the sun. Some of them are going to drown in the rain. Some of them are going to get eaten by the birds. Some of them are going to rot because of bugs. Some of them, and he just goes on and on. Here's one thing I will guarantee you. If you do not plant any seeds, you will not have a harvest. No matter what happens to most of the seeds, it takes planting the seeds to get to the harvest, no matter what.
Absolutely. That is spot on. We've heard the expression, you must sow more than you reap. And often people interpret that to be you should give more than you take, be generous, but it really isn't about that. It's really about being prepared because of everything that you just said, all the reasons why those seeds would not take and become, a viable plant. There are many, many reasons why an idea may not make money. You can do everything right on a product launch and the launch just not be successful.
That's right. Yeah.
For any number of reasons, really.
And the numbers, when you look at the numbers, if people knew the numbers when they came into our space of online marketing, I would put forth that many of them probably wouldn't come in. Oh, you take 1,000 leads into the top of a funnel and your open rate on the email mailing is 18%. So now you're down to 180 people. And the click-through rate is 30%. So now you're down to 60 people. That's 60 out of 1,000 that are even looking at the offer, whatever the offer is. And by the way, these are not crazy numbers either, right? And it was 60. And then you just keep whittling it down to, wow, out of the 1,000 people that came into my funnel, I was able to make 10 sales. And most people would think that that's acceptable. 20 sales is good. 30 would be magnificent out of 1,000. Just saying. I know it's a little bit wacky.
But before anyone gets discouraged, it is a whole lot easier to get 1,000 people on your mailing list than it is to get 10 people to walk through your door of a store. So it's, even though it sounds a little bit doomsday, I still highly recommend people start online businesses. Just don't quit your day job to do it.
Yeah, because it takes time.
Yeah.
All we're saying is you just got to put in the effort. You got to make the sacrifices to get there and keep plugging away. In defining moments, success is like this. It is the quilt sewn from the patchwork of our dreams, The rich fibers of loving family and friends, the strong threads of a healthy body, soul, and spirit. It is the handiwork of the divine within us that comforts us throughout the seasons of life, the blanket that wraps us up in the warmth of a life fulfilled. And it don't ever happen without effort.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. And I don't want to overharp on the point, but it's just one of my big things about online marketing. Is like, okay, come on, people. Can we just get real? Okay. Set yourself some modest targets, set yourself some goals, make yourself a plan, start executing on it, and then see where it takes you. And oh, by the way, the journey is every bit as much internal as it is external. Mm-hmm. Here's Ridgely. I love my little team. I love my little company. Everybody's an A player. It's not that difficult to get people to do what they're supposed to do. And suddenly I'm faced with the thing that I have to scale. Whether I like it or not, I do not have enough people to handle what I need to handle. I just don't. So what does that mean? That means that this morning I'm on the phone with a guy who's got a company way bigger than me and who travels to India 3 times a year just to bond with his team to make sure there's an emotional connection there with them so that they do the work to the standards to which he has become accustomed, which are not as good as the standards to which you would want to become accustomed. Mm-hmm. Just saying. And oh, by the way, India is a really long ways away, and you got to really like India to want to go there. You're laughing over here, Donna Fox.
I am. I'm planning a trip to India next December, right? Not the one coming up a year, 14 months from now. I'm planning on going to India.
Ah, have you been there yet?
I have not. It is my first trip. I'm very, very excited about it.
It's worth getting excited about. It is an absolute full frontal assault on your senses.
That's what I'm anticipating. Yes.
I'm telling you, it is like the smells, the colors, the taste, the thing, the whatever. You're like, what? Yeah. You might find yourself hiding in the hotel for a day. Just saying, for a minute, or at least part of a day.
Introvert me, probably.
It's wild. It's a wild place. And I have lots of contacts over there, by the
way. Beth made a comment. In direct mail, you were thrilled if you had a 0.005 open rate.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a numbers game. It's all a numbers game.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of like dating. Have to ask a lot of pretty girls before you find one that'll let you kiss her.
Or find one that the relationship actually works.
Yeah.
And I'm going to suggest that you have to sow a lot of seeds into the relationship for it to keep working.
Right. And into yourself. Business is no different than a relationship, truly.
I think so. I think that's right. And I think you can get a little bit less frantic with more experience. Mm-hmm. So here's the trippy thing. This I got to share. So the one reason why I've loved having a small organization is because of the fact that the standard that I can set is very high, and I don't have to do a lot of management stuff. The recognition when you know you have to go to a bigger organization is that you have to let go of a lot of that. And so there's an internal conversation that has to happen. I was talking to my brother about this. My brother's very successful, recently sold his company. Why did he sell his company? Because he couldn't take the pressure anymore. Put on himself because of the standards to which he held himself and the frustration that he felt when others were not holding themselves to similar standards, which they never will because they don't own the company. Right? So all said becomes a little bit of a Zenish Buddhist thing of like, all right, in order for this to grow, I need to get out of the way mentally as well as physically, because more people are going to be needed and they're not going to do what I want them to do at the speed that I would like them to do it unless I alter my expectations in order to get more people doing a little bit less, as opposed to fewer people doing what they can, which isn't enough. I know that was a convoluted jag there for a second, but pointing out the idea that we have to continue growing ourselves in order to keep the business thing, the whatever, it's otherwise not going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yourselves and your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So in The Soul of Money, Lynn found it was looking at the way certain indigenous tribes pay a lot of attention to their dreams and how they use their dreams to guide them a little bit. And I found an interesting passage that says this: when we have the courage to let go of the dream we have now, the dream and drive and trance to accumulate more, then we have the space to envision and create the new dream, a dream that sees us engaged in respecting, preserving, honoring what we have. In that space of nourishment, in that vision of a new relationship with life, natural harmony and creativity abound. And I found that interesting because ever since I have, and it's only been about a month, had this very deep conversation with myself. You need to chill out and relax and understand that things will get done. They might not get done as fast as you want them to get done. They might not get done as fast as you might have expected in the past that they would get done. But if you let people do their thing, they're going to get things done. I'm actually finding a lot more peace. I actually have, don't tell anybody, blocked my calendar every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning just to think and work on the business, not in the business.
I love that.
Can you believe it?
You're booking thinking time.
Yeah.
Where is he?
It's the coolest, man. I was like, what?
Yeah, I had sitting right here. I don't know where it is now. Keith Cunningham's The Road Less Traveled. No, that was not the book. Anyway,
No.
The Road Less Stupid. That's the book. Where he talks about thinking time, how it's very important for business owners to schedule time where they're not working in their business. They're actually just thinking about their business. Not even working on the business like a Michael Gerber E-Myth idea, but thinking about your business. And he has loads of questions in that book that help you through that process of things you should be thinking about.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, I have now gotten super clear that there is never a downside to going for a morning walk. And on morning walks, I get such clarity on things. Like I said, I have this big presentation coming up after this. And I was walking this morning and I came back in the house. And I said to my wife, remind me that I should always go walking. Yeah. Knowing that the improvement in what I was going to present was substantial from nothing other than thinking about what are you thinking about and how are you presenting this thing to the world. Super cool. Love that.
I second your walks. I also find that long-handed journaling is also a great way to get some clarity. It forces you to slow down a little bit and to articulate your thoughts rather than, oh yeah, I know that. We don't realize how much we kind of blow off ourselves in thinking that we can think the whole thing and not really get into the nuance and the details. And it's much, much harder to articulate something than it is to think about it. So.
Yeah, for real. So sometimes it takes more thinking and less articulating until you get it articulated.
Yep.
Deepak tells us that the soul brings order out of disorder. It brings creative leaps, unexpected answers, and synchronicities that are like gifts from the heart of mystery. I got to repeat that. That's just so cool, right? It brings creative leaps, unexpected answers, and synchronicities that are like gifts from the heart of mystery. No matter how complex and confusing a situation looks, leadership is possible when you're comfortable with uncertainty. Once they see the hidden spiritual order that lies beneath what seems to be chaos, inspired leaders thrive on uncertainty. notice it says, once they see the hidden spiritual order. So
Yes.
then it's no longer uncertainty. It's no longer like chaos, right? There's some, I love this. You must learn how to manage the facts that the situations are tangled. You must learn how to manage the fact that situations are tangled. Otherwise, the group you lead will be crippled by turmoil. There's always a jumble of needs and responses that must be sorted out. Fear and survival, competition and creativity, beliefs and personalities make their demands. They each have a voice, whether we hear them or not. But underneath the jumbled surface, there's only one voice, the silent whisper of spirit, which understands everything. There's a lot in that. I'm not even unpacking that. That's just too deep for me, man. I'm like, okay, Deepak, sure, bro, I get it. Underneath all that, there's a lot. Perfect. Oh, man. So, from my favorite book, or one of my favorite books for sure, Jim says, fall is a time for exaltation as well as a time for a searching of the conscience. For those who planted abundantly in the spring and who fought against the bugs, weeds, and weather of summer, fall can bring rewards which give cause for rejoicing. For those who watched both the arrival and departure of spring and who made little effort to take advantage of its almost momentary tenure, fall can be a time of turmoil, a time of anxiety, and a time of great regret. Nothing is more exciting than a bounteous crop, and nothing more dreadful than a barren field in the fall.
Yes, I agree with that.
Having been through both, we know the feelings of both. And even though we don't want to be high-fiving and funky chickening too long, we can enjoy that moment and use the bounty to start planting more seeds and keep going. It says, so it is with those given the responsibility for planting the crops of the field. And so it is also to those who are given the responsibilities of life and success in the world of business and labor. An unproductive and meager result in the season reserved for harvesting makes confession of our own past failures both difficult and necessary. An empty bank account is a sign of ineffective past effort. It is a sign of a missed opportunity. It is a sign of too much procrastination or laziness. The law of the universe is faultless. It applies equally well to the farmer as to the business person. The law is equally applied to all things and all people. That law has endured since the creation of the world, and for that long, men have sought to circumvent it or argue with it or even to ignore it. In the end, our results demonstrate if we have obeyed its orders or disobeyed. The law is simple and known to all. The law is, as you sow, so shall you reap.
So good. That is just so good.
I'm like, my man, Jim.
Yeah.
Down, right? So real.
Yeah.
And we just can't forget. And we have to find friends that remind us. You got to keep going. You got to keep planting. Keep doing whatever that doing means, whatever it looks like. Because otherwise, you know what's going to happen. It's a barren field.
I think that's the challenge for so many people, is not knowing which seeds to plant, not knowing what crops to invest in, not knowing what they need to learn, how they need to learn it.
And that ties in directly with another spiritual leader, Daisaku Ikeda, who says, there's absolutely nothing wrong with aiming to be the best, but you need to clarify your goals each step of the way and challenge yourself each day, sparing no pain or effort to achieve them. Dreams and determinations are two different things. If you simply long for what you'd like to be, but fail to work at it with persistence and painstaking diligence, then you're pursuing an empty dream. If you were really resolved to become the best, then you'd already be taking concrete steps and working with all your might in that direction. Success is another name for repeated, unflagging effort.
It's good.
Right? Yeah.
It's really good.
I like finding this stuff because it reminds me when I'm feeling a little lazy, when I'm feeling a little sluggish, after getting knocked down a little bit in whatever way that means, like not feeling up to snuff physically or having emotional challenges or relationships or whatever, there's always somebody out there to remind you, as you sow, so shall you reap.
Mm-hmm.
Over and over.
And we all see this a lot, not just in building a business, but we all have a friend that, wants to learn how to play the violin, but they've never picked one up. But they're forever talking about how one day they're going to learn the violin.
Yeah. It's like the idea of, how rich are you going to become by counting your neighbor's money? Like not much. Okay. Just saying. And I love in the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, our brother Vishen, who's in our business, he has some cool stuff. And one of the things that he talks about is the idea of blisscipline, not discipline. It's the blisscipline. How do you get to the blisscipline? One of the things that he says is the power of gratitude. And he goes on to describe it, the list of scientifically proven benefits that come from gratitude. I think this is really cool. More energy, more forgiving attitudes, less depression, less anxiousness, more feelings of being socially connected, better sleep, fewer headaches. That all comes from the power of gratitude, getting to that space of blisscipline. That's his number one blisscipline system, is the power of gratitude, which I think is great. Number two, forgiveness. How willing are you to let go of that stuff and move forward? Number three, the practice of giving. The Dalai Lama once said, to be happy, make others happy. Giving is the path for doing this. So I'm on the phone this morning with this guy and learning about how he scaled his operation by setting up a thing in India. And he said, I had a very interesting experience when I was over there. I said, what? Tell me, Dan, what was it? He said, I went to a place where, by all account, the people had nothing. I mean, they've lived multi-generations in a house and whatever, and I'm trying to take it all in. And somehow I got invited to this little place, and they cooked this beautiful dinner for me. And it was beautiful, and I just had no idea how they even did it. And so I asked them, I said, what could I do that would make your world better? What could I do to help you and to support you? And the old elder looked over to him and said, you need to learn more about receiving.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Curveball, man. Here you are with the people who have nothing who are teaching you about receiving. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
I had to ponder that one. I'm still pondering it. By the way, my new friend Dan said that was 10 years ago and I'm still pondering it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. We will ponder that one together.
I think that's a lesson most people need to learn too, how to receive more. I also need to learn it, but I try to remind myself that receiving is giving the gift of giving. Receiving. So if I'm receiving something from you, I'm giving you the gift of giving.
That's true.
And that makes receiving a lot easier, even though it's not necessarily receiving at that point.
And the idea that giving is better than receiving is kind of a weird concept because they kind of both go together. You can't have one without the other. So it's kind of like, I don't know how you make that analysis of one being better than the other, unless it's for some ego-based concept.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed. I also had a mentor many, many years ago who told me that every time you say no to something that is offered to you, you're telling the universe that you don't want more. You're saying no to abundance in your life. So now I'm very fond of saying yes when people want to give me things. Yes, thank you. Whatever else you don't want, I take it too, you know?
Exactly. So one final thought I wanted to kind of run by you, and that is the power of understanding setbacks, defeat, etc., as being part of the journey to bounty and harvest. And Napoleon Hill says, defeat may be a stepping stone or a stumbling block, according to your mental attitude and how you relate it to yourself. It is never the same as failure unless and until it has been accepted as such. Many so-called failures represent only a temporary defeat that may prove to be a blessing in disguise. Your mental attitude in respect to defeat is the factor of major importance that determines whether you rise with the tides of fortune or misfortune. Individual success usually is in exact proportion to the scope of the defeat the individual has experienced and mastered. Remember, the worst thing that can happen to you may be the best thing that can happen to you if you don't let it get the best of you.
Oh, that's good.
That's really good, right? Yeah. That's a writer downer. The worst thing that can happen to you may be the best thing that can happen to you if you don't let it get the best of you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think so too, right? One of those, yeah, okay, I guess that means I'm supposed to get back up again and start planting some more seeds.
Yep, that's what it means. That's exactly what it means. And as we wrap up here, what are some action steps that we can give our listeners to know how to get back up, to know how to plant the right seeds?
I think there's a number of them. Perhaps top of my list is to be a lifelong learner.
That's top of mine too.
Cultivate the skill of being a lifelong learner. Come to these sessions, listen to the content, take action on it. If you hear about a book that strikes you, go get it and read it. And Jim used to always say, the people who don't read are no better than the people who can't read. And really, just do something. Buy yourself a book, dude. I got the stack. It just, oh yeah, get me that one. Oh, okay, I'll get to it.
We're both really voracious book readers, but I have found that the best information is in books. Really, the best information when it comes to the amount, the quality of the content, the value for it. It does not get much better than a simple book. And this comes from someone who has sold, $2,000 courses that were really just culminations of 30 or 40 books that I've ever read.
That's exactly right. I think another thing is find a peer group that supports you.
Ooh, that's another good one. Yes.
Find people who support you and who will not judge you when you're down, but rather share what they did to get up in that moment. And that's not an easy thing to do, because a lot of times too many people are like the crabs trying to get out of the bucket. They're trying to pull you back down in the bucket to hang out with them. So to find that group that can support you in great times and celebrate with you, but also support you when you're going through things and remind you, hey, the sun will come up tomorrow. And let's just kind of like figure out what we can do to move forward. So I think finding a peer group like that is key. I think finding mentors who can be straight with you and even strict with you if need be, and share their experience of how they move forward when the situations got tough. It doesn't have to be in your same industry. It can be just people have that experience in life.
You also don't have to know them personally. And often, especially when you're starting out, you will not be able to know them personally because their time is more valuable than you are at that moment. I mean, it sounded horrible to say it, and I almost wanted to bite it back, but that's what I wanted to say. That it's very difficult to find a mentor that will work with you when you're just getting started, because there are so many mentors that come on pages that you need first. And those are the first mentors that you should be consulting, and their answers are in their books.
Yeah. And I think also nowadays it's so easy to find resources because of the internet, because of what's available to us. I went out this morning saying, hey, I've got to up-level a manager. What do you guys recommend? And I had instantly 4 or 5 answers. And it turns out that one of the answers that came up more time than others was a course run by Cameron Harold, who's a friend of mine that I didn't even know had a course. Right?
That's amazing.
Sometimes you just got to ask.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's like, okay, wow, that was a little bit more than a coincidence, I think.
And a great place for Groovesters to ask is in our group, in our members group, because there are so many people there that are running their own businesses, that have taken the steps that you're taking, that have walked the path that you're about to walk, and they know where the minefields are, and they can point you in the right direction.
And people who have successfully navigated something are much more often than not so willing to share.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful thing. It's one of the great rewards of having navigated the minefield. Hey, yes. I got through the other side. Oh, you want to know how I did it? Well, okay, then sit down. Let's have a talk.
Because most of us don't want to see other people fail. Mm-hmm. Very few of us enjoy the schadenfreude of another person's pain.
Yeah.
But we love to share in their victories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. How about you? What other ones do you have?
I think in addition to everything that you've said, which has been enormous, is also when you feel the clue for me that I need to learn about something is when I don't feel confident about it. And I know we touched on this, and was it either last month or the month before? Our topic was confidence, and I equate confidence with competence. Mm-hmm. And the more confident I feel about something, the more confident I am. So the reverse of that is true. If you feel nervous or anxious or unclear about something, that is a clue for you of where to go next. And personally, me, I would hop onto Amazon, find a couple of books on the topic. I just went and bought many books on storytelling. I realized that stories is one of those things that I don't feel like I have a good handle on right now. Stories are very hypnotic for people. People remember stories in books more than they remember the data or the details. So it's an excellent way to communicate thoughts and ideas. And I realized I was not quite where I needed to be. So what I did was I went and bought the top 10 books on Amazon on the topic of storytelling. Story selling was actually the name of one of the books, but yeah, storytelling, and both visual and verbal storytelling. What a great way to make yourself familiar with the topic, broadly familiar with the topic. So yeah, that's how I find my clues, is when I do not feel confident about something. It's time for me to go learn from a bunch of books.
Yeah, and I also want to give a little bit of a shout out to this AI crazy thing, because yesterday, I think it was, I was saying to somebody, okay, what do you need? Let's just play with this a little bit. Oh, well, aren't you putting out a course? Okay, well, why don't we create, what do you need for that course? You need some blog posts, you need some sales letters, what do you need? And they said, well, yeah, no, I need, yeah, that'd be great. An email sequence or blog post. Okay, great. So I went through the process that I do. And then I said, now, team, let me just show you so you can expand your mind. What is possible? Okay, rewrite this blog post. You are an epic storyteller. Bring in the story about how this person used this course to get out of a very deep funk. They were almost suicidal, on the verge of giving up completely. Make it a young person, make it highly emotional, and blah, 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 blah. Click. tick, 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 done. Okay, here's a story.
Mhm.
And it was good. And they said, okay, this is good, but what we need here is now to insert dialogue. So between the course owner and the person, make this a dialogue between them throughout, showcasing how the person went through the emotional transformation, what was the benefit that they got from it, and how at the end they had a complete turnaround. Click. 1, 2, 3, done. Boom. I look at it. I'm like, that is better than I could write.
Mhm.
Very interesting. So for those of us who are playing with AI, I can tell you, I have given up. A lot of what I do is limbic messaging. I have now officially acknowledged that AI can do it better than me.
Yep.
No, it's doing it from instructions that we create for it, but just to let others know, where can you go to find inspiration? Where can you go to find ways to plant more seeds? I would suggest that AI is a new tool that's on the market that's pretty interesting.
I 100% agree with you. I mentioned that I was writing copy for one of the agency clients. I was using Groove.ai to do that. I had their answers to our 30 questions about your business in front of me, as well as my version of Groove.ai. And I seeded it. I built a knowledge base out. I'm just asking AI a bunch of different questions. It writes something that's good. I pull it out and put it over into my second document on the side. And then I keep asking questions and it writes something that sounds great. And it's right now, AI is not in the position that you can say, write me a sales letter and you're going to get an amazing long form sales letter. You have to still piece those together by asking the right questions. So brainstorm the pain points that someone might be experiencing that my product, which I've described in my knowledge base, will solve. And it will brainstorm for you. It will give you a first draft. It will give you a very, very good first draft. And it might get some things wrong, but oh my goodness, it is a lifesaver in terms of getting quality content out. It has reduced our time for just tremendously. We're doing more with much less time than we used to.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely take a look at that one as well.
Yep.
And remember, even in AI, or maybe even especially in AI, you got to plant the seeds, because garbage in, garbage out. If you ain't putting a good seed in there and nurturing the seeds through iterative questions, you're going to get a big old bunch of garbage out that is not going to serve you. So anyway, fabulous dialogue. And here we are at the top of the hour. It seems like it just started 2 minutes ago.
That's right. It always does, Ridgely. I enjoy our time together.
Well, thank you so very much, Donna. It's been great as always. And I look forward to next month. But man, take us on out of here. Give us a little bit of that funky music so we can pick up our spirits and go on to the next thing, whatever that is for you. And I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
See you next week, guys.